Sometimes people have parties. Sometimes those parties involve alcohol. Sometimes you want to play a game with people while drinking alcohol. Sometimes you don't want to worry about worker placement, economic engines, prestige points, or little wooden cubes. When those sometimes arrive, it's time for a party game. Today's episode is kind of special since we're going to be focusing on several different party games. To me, a party game is a game that meets some of the following standards: minimal components, short playing time, social interaction, and rules you can explain in 5 minutes or less. So let's see what I've got in my collection that fits the bill. One player acts as moderator and everyone else is handed a card that designates them as villagers, werewolves, or the seer. The game has two phases, night and day. At night, everyone closes their eyes, the moderator turns up the spooky music, and the seer opens his or her eyes and silently asks the moderator if a certain person is the werewolf. The seer closes her eyes and the werewolves open their eyes and silently select who to kill. Day breaks and the moderator informs that sad sack that they've been killinated. After talking it out, the villagers vote on who they should lynch. Play continues like this until the number of villagers equals the number of werewolves, or when all the werewolves are dead. Some versions of the game include special powers, including allowing dead villagers to hang out in absolute silence with limited voting power. Or they can group up for something like this. In the interest of full disclosure, let me say that I don't actually own Apples to Apples, but I know enough about it to tell you how it works. One player per round takes the role of the judge. The judge draws and puts into play an adjective card from the deck, and everyone else plays a noun card. The nouns are shuffled together, and the judge picks the best noun card. That card's owner scores the round, and the judge roll passes to another player. The first player to score a certain amount of rounds wins the game. A good start, but let's move to a game with something a bit more solid. Attribute takes this formula and puts a definite structure around scoring. Players have a hand of attribute cards, and every round they're randomly dealt a secret red or green sheep card. The active player calls out a noun, and everyone puts an attribute card face down on top of their sheep card. Someone counts to 3, and then everyone flips over their attribute card. It's a mad dash as players quickly scan all the attribute cards and try to claim a card and sheep pair that they think matches the called out noun. Once the grabby phase is done, people who have unclaimed cards left gain or lose a point based on the color of their sheep. Then everyone who claimed a card gains or loses a point based on the color of the sheep that came with it. This rewards picking the right word for your sheep and claiming the right word from someone else. If words aren't your thing, how about pretty pictures? Imagine everything I just said before, but the active player, or storyteller, describes one of these weird picture cards from their hand. Everyone throws in a card that they think matches that description. These cards are shuffled and laid out, and the other players secretly pick the one they think best matches the storyteller's description. Players get points if their card is chosen by other players, and there's a point incentive to choosing the right card. But the storyteller needs to watch out. If everyone or no one picks his card, he gets nothing and everyone else scores. Now, if silly word or picture association isn't your thing, well, then maybe you'll like this completely lame segue. Wits and Wagers is a trivia game. Unlike Trivial Pursuit though, the game doesn't necessarily reward the player who knows the right answer. Instead, it only matters if you think you know who does know the right answer. Every round, a question with a numerical answer is read aloud. Players have 30 seconds to write down a guess, and those guesses are then sorted from the lowest to highest, with the middle guess going in the middle of the board. Players then have another 30 seconds to place their betting tokens on the answer or answers they think are the closest to the right answer without going over. Once all the bets are placed, the answer is revealed, and one guess is designated as the winner, and everyone who bet on the winning guess gets a payout. Chips earned during payouts can then be used for bets during future rounds. How much are you willing to bet that Blake knows how many dimensions of Earth existed during the Silver Age of DC Comics, or whatever? I'm not going to dwell too much on these games because, really, there's not much to dwell on. Party games, by their nature, usually have a simple but interesting mechanic, which is designed more to promote a fun atmosphere than deep number crunching. But if I had to give a short opinion on each of these games, it'd go something like this. Werewolf is great if you have lots of people and not a lot of table space. You can accuse someone with one hand while holding a beer in the other. Conversation can get pretty lively, and you'll often be so desperate to cast blame onto someone else, you'll call them a werewolf simply because of the amount of body hair they have. Not that that's ever happened to me. Apples to apples is dumb. There are no standards for the judge to use when deciding which card is the winner for the round. Attribute is fun. With the judging mechanism built in, the fuzziness is taken out of the scoring, which means it's more of a game and less of a social diversion. The edition published by Z-Man Games is missing what I consider to be a key rule, though. Dixit is funner, maybe even funnest. The problem is that Dixit is sold out pretty much anywhere that's charging a reasonable price for it. But good news, everyone! I've heard rumors of a reprint. The only issue I can foresee with a game like Dixit is that if you play it with the same people too often, then the pictures start to get familiar. The fourth time someone says "cat's in a starship" and everyone knows what he's talking about means that maybe it's time to play something else. Wits and Wagers. So, I want to like Wits and Wagers. It's got a clever premise, and it's always fun when the answer is read aloud and makes you smack the table and yell out, "I totally knew that." But for some reason the game stops feeling like a game around the fourth or fifth question. Maybe that's because there's usually a runaway winner, and the only way to catch them is to bet everything on one answer and hope you get lucky. Anyway, there you go, 5 games in one video. I have other party games lying around, so if people like this break from the norm, then maybe I'll make another one. Let me know. The power is yours!